Former ICE Director Tom Homan unpacks why we must secure our borders, and the only choice for president is Donald J. Trump on this episode of United Patriots Uprising with Gary Binford. I'm your host, Gary Binford. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Hope you subscribe to it, leave a rating and a review. You can find the video version at YouTube, Rumble, Conservative Television of America, the God Family and Country Television Network, and the Rose Unplugged Media Network. Wherever you go, click the notification button, subscribe, and leave a rating and a review if you can. Let us know what you think about this show. This show used to be audio. It was audio for the first 2 or 3 years, and there's been over 180 high-profile guests who have been on, some of them many times. So I would ask that you go to the radioinfluence.com, United Patriots Uprising with Gary Binford archives, where you'll hear guests such as Ben Carson, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Christina Bobb, Dick Morris, Monica Crowley, Peter Navarro, Morgan Brittany, Diamond and Silk, Clay Clark, Judge Janine Pirro, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Gene Ho, Kerry Lake, Mike Lindell, Alex Newman, Kevin Sorbo, and Carol Swain, and there are many, many others. And what they said then is just as valid today. Well, everyone, it's go time, it's showtime. Patriots, this is it. You want the America that stands for God, family, Constitution, a country as we know it. We've kicked the can down as far as we can. This is the edge of the road. There's no more road. You know, there's no more road. If the Democratic Party wins this upcoming presidential election, America will become unrecognizable to us. And I guarantee you, none of us will want to live here under these circumstances. But we still have time to do something. So I encourage you, you must vote. And you can't vote for them. You can't vote for what they are, as The Rock would say. You want to smell what they're cooking? It's a stench. I'm telling you, we can't go down that road, people. And the economy is not the number one issue. It may seem like the number one issue, but the number one issue is our unsecure borders. Because a country without borders is not a country. No borders, what you'll end up with is no economy. So what you have to do, people, please, we implore you to get out and vote. And you must vote for President Donald J. Trump, because he will do what we need to do to keep us safe and secure. And national security has to be number one on our list. And along those lines, this is one of the reasons I love my guests. I've been with him several times, a couple times in South Carolina, here on Long Island, New York. And I love him as a speaker because his no nonsense approach is refreshing to me, because he puts it out there like it needs to be put out there. Somebody who's been involved in border security, custom, and law enforcement for many, many years, and he knows what he's talking about. And what he's going to tell you is going to be shocking, but true. And I'm telling you, there's no more can to kick down the road. We have to deal with this, people, right here, right now. So you ready to hear? Well, let's get into it. Following a 34-year career in law enforcement, he's been on a mission rooting out and taking on the bad guys wherever he finds them. You see him all over the television, particularly on Fox News. He's a former ICE director and the owner of Homeland Strategic Consulting. I welcome back to the show, Mr. Tom Homan. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you back. And Tom, we've been together. We've been together a couple times in South Carolina. We've been together in New York. And every time you talk, we're asking what's going on at the border, what's going on at the border, what's going on. And Tom, we're at the end of the rope here. The election's coming up. Let the people really know what's going on. How bad is it?
Well, first of all, Kamala Harris and the White House wants to brag that border numbers have significantly decreased over 50%. That is just a stone cold lie. What the administration has done is they took a large population of the illegal aliens. They created two different programs one's called the CHNV, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. They're bringing 30,000 a month of those four nationalities into American airports, straight to the airports. And that's the same population that would enter illegally, but they're giving them what they call a legal pathway, which isn't legal. They just created this to bring people in without having to be arrested by the Border Patrol. That way they can claim the numbers, the illegal alien encounters are down. They're not. It's the same exact population. They created this program to bring 30,000 a month in. Then they created, of course, the CBP-1 app that's bringing thousands of illegal aliens in every day. I mean, last count, about 1.5 million people have been brought into the two programs. So if you add the two programs they created, which they call legal pathways, which are not, if you count those two programs plus what Border Patrol is still catching, plus the gotaways, they're still at historic numbers. So every time I see on TV saying the border numbers are down, it's a lie to the American people. They're playing a shell game, and that's what it is. And so the numbers are still historic. Matter of fact, the numbers just came out today. They're at about 2.9 million encounters so far this fiscal year. So you got the almost 3 million this year, over 3 million last year. They got 10.8 million encounters, 10.8 million encounters since Joe Biden's been in the White House. That is not border security. That is an open border, and they can't deny it. The facts are the facts.
Okay. Now, not only that, we're talking right there about a border where people are coming across. You want to talk about the plane flights? Because this is what blew me away.
Like I said, they're bringing in 30,000 a month from Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Venezuela. Bring them straight in. They're processing, paroling them straight in, which is is a violation of federal law. First of all, the parole statute is clear that parole must be given on a case-by-case basis based on the specifics of an individual case that shows a significant public benefit or significant humanitarian concern. There's no case-by-case analysis being done. When he announced this thing, he said, we're going to bring 30,000 a month. How can you throw a number out, 30,000 a month, without doing a case-by-case analysis? So look, they're ignoring what the statute says. It's a violation of law. Many states have sued. Many Republican state AGs have sued, and they're going to win it. Just a matter of going through the court process. So, and the thing people got to remember, the 30,000 a month they're bringing into this program, again, Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Venezuela. And guess what? This administration has no relationship with any of those four countries. So even when they lose their case, which 90% will because they simply don't qualify for asylum, so when 90% get order removed, they're not going anywhere because these four countries won't accept them back. So these people are here to stay. Unless we get a president like President Trump in, that's going to make them go home. So their plan is to bring as many people as they can in this country and make it extremely difficult to remove them.
Tom, how are they getting away with this? Because every day we're seeing gangs from Venezuela, at least the news that I watch, you're seeing clips of this and clips of that. They're showing people coming across the border. We hear about the cartels. We hear about the child trafficking. We know about the fentanyl. How are they pulling this off? And I guess the media has to be very complicit, because if the mainstream media, which I call the disingenuous mainstream media, was doing the right thing, this would have been exposed, and at least we would be reversing the curse.
You're exactly right. They're covering for this administration. Let's use one example. The other day I did an interview. Of course, they brought up Trump's policy of family separation. But we did zero tolerance, and 2,500 families were separated because the parents were locked up, were being charged with a crime. The child couldn't go with them. At the same time, they want to talk about those 2,500 cases, but they refuse to talk about 328,000. 328,000 children have been smuggled in this country, released by this administration, and they can't find them. They can't find them. They can't find the sponsors. So they don't want to talk about 328,000 separations, but they want to talk about the 2,500. The media's complicit. Media's in bed with them. And look, the media still, name a media outlet that's been down to the border, covering what's going on. These illegal programs, the CHNV and the CBP-1 app, no one's talking about this. Other network that I work for, Fox, is talking about it. But the media's complicit. How are they getting away with it? Because they don't care about being have to answer to anybody being responsible for the decisions they make. Look, the Supreme Court in the United States has told Joe Biden, you can't forgive student loans on these programs. Well, guess what? He's doing it anyway. They told Joe Biden, you got to put the Remain in Mexico program back in. He didn't. So they're ignoring the courts. They're ignoring federal statute, and they need to be held accountable. I think when President Trump gets back in office, they need to be held accountable.
I hear you. And there's one thing that I can't wrap my brain around. Every time I see you, I look in your eyes, I ask you this in person. Aren't they afraid of terrorists? Aren't they afraid, understanding the Chinese nationals, that terrorists from Islamic countries, other places, and gang members and bad hombres are coming across the border with bad intentions? And their bad intentions are for Democrats or Republicans. Their bad intentions are for America, the ones that want to destroy our country. And then the others are just flat out thugs or gangsters that the only life they know is thug life. So aren't they concerned about the day, especially if they stay in power, where these people say, okay, no threat of Trump, so now let's go for it?
Well, that's my biggest concern, is the national security vulnerability they create on the southern border. And I don't care if Republican, Democrat, Independent. We should all be on the same page on this. We shouldn't give these terrorist groups easy access to this country. But they're on a quest. They obviously perceive a future political benefit from opening the border. And people ask me all the time, why would they open the border? Well, they obviously perceive a future political benefit. I think they think these millions you're releasing will be future Democratic voters. But I also think there's a reason when Joe Biden signed 94 executive orders abolishing everything we created, he also overturned the Trump census rule, which says these millions of people, at least 8 million they released into the United States, in sanctuary cities mostly, will be counted in the next census. And so that when they reproportionate seats in the House, it's going to result in more seats in the House with the Dems, so they control Congress. There is no other reason to unsecure a border on purpose. So do they care about terrorism? Probably, but they're not going to let anything stop their plans of controlling this country forever. And it's a shame because, I've said it many times, Border Patrol's arrested people from 180 different countries. Some of these countries are responsible for terror. They've arrested, I think we're at 386 now, 386 people with terrorist watch lists were arrested trying to sneak in the country. We got 2.2 million gotaways. How many of the 2.2 million gotaways came from a country sponsoring terror? If you think it's zero, then you're a moron. So, this is, and even Christopher Wray, the director of FBI, who I don't have deep respect in, even he said, the southwest border is a national security vulnerability that's going to affect us. So it should scare everybody that this southwest border is vulnerable to terrorists coming in, and even Christopher Wray, the director of FBI, agrees with me. But here's what people need to understand: the 2.2 million people that got away. You pay the cartels a certain amount of money to get to the border. They turn yourselves over to the Border Patrol. And that amounts a certain amount. It's a smaller amount because the cartel's job ends at the border. They get you to the border, you turn yourself into a green uniform, you get processed and released within 24 hours. You get a free plane ticket to any place in the country you want to go. You get a free hotel room. You get 3 meals a day. You get free medical care. So why did 2.2 million people pay more to not get all that free giveaway? Why did 2.2 million people, 2.2 million, pay more to get away and not take benefits that were being offered to them? Well, the answer is obvious. They didn't want to be vetted. They didn't want to be fingerprinted. That just scared the hell out of everybody. After 9/11, we created all these databases. You got the TSA no-fly list. You got the FBI screening database. You got the DOD intel database. You got the visa security program that's prevented thousands of people from getting a visa or a plane ticket in the United States when we found derogatory information in their background. They weren't given a visa. This is in response to 9/11. People who got a visa came here and did us harm and got a plane ticket to come to the United States. Now, those databases work pretty good up to now. However, what terrorist in the world today is going to put himself in position to ask for a visa or a plane ticket, knowing there's some sort of vetting procedure, when he simply go to Mexico, pay the cartels more money to get away? That is a real case scenario. And look, we've already found, just 2 months ago, they stopped 8 people from that were paroled into the United States, released from the border, that were planning a Russian-type terrorist event in the United States. Lucky they were caught on chatter. They arrested somebody last week that was planning a election day terrorist event. So we know they're here. Thousands of terrorists have been released from Afghanistan prisons who so focused on life to destroy this nation. We brought thousands of them here through poor vetting, and even DOD's own inspector general said that they weren't properly vetted. This border issue, this immigration issue, this open border mentality of this administration has caused the biggest national security vulnerability I've seen in my career. And God help us, I think something's coming. And when something comes, I want President Trump to be in the White House.
I understand that. So do I, and so do a lot of us. And that's a major thing here about, without him in the White House, boy, this thing is really, really going to blow up. So make a passionate plea, because I contend, not the economy. The economy is important, but if you don't have a border, you don't have a nation. And we'll have no economy or no country if this is allowed to continue. Am I correct?
You're absolutely correct. And look, for those that want to vote for Kamala Harris, understand that this border will remain open. She will not take any steps to close it. So what I'm asking folks to do is put your love of country above your hate for Trump. There are people in this country that hate President Trump. I think your love of country needs to take precedent over your hate for a man. This country, the greatest nation on earth, needs to remain the greatest nation on earth, but we're in a desperate situation right now. Again, put the human trafficking aside. Put the sex trafficking, women and children, up 600%. You got a quarter million young Americans have died from fentanyl coming across the open border. 600% increase in sex trafficking of women and children. You got a historic number of people off the terrorist watch lists coming across the border. You have the cartels are making historic amounts of money they've never even seen before. Then you got the biggest national security vulnerability in the nation. If that's not worth your attention to vote for the person who you know will secure the border, the person who has proven how to secure the border, then I don't understand you. And I'm putting the national security of this country above all else, because we're in danger. And all the experts, again, I'm going to say it again, Director of FBI says it. I've done stories for us. I'm saying it. Numerous intelligence agencies are saying this is a vulnerable entry point for terrorism. We have to lock the border down. And I've asked every Democrat I ever got an argument with, give me one reason or give me one downside on a secure border. Give me a downside on a secure border. There's no downside. There's no downside on less women being sex trafficked. No downside on less aliens dying crossing the border. There's no downside on cartels making less money. There's no downside on less drugs getting in this country. I mean, there's no downside on secure border. Secure borders save lives. So if you're about saving lives, lock the border down and save some lives, both alien lives and American lives.
And only President Donald J. Trump will do that. The left won't do that. This is their new voting base. They've thrown aside Catholics. They've thrown aside Protestants. They've thrown aside blacks. They've thrown aside Hispanics. This is going to be their voting base if they can get away with it. My last question, Tom, and before I ask you to tell people how they can find you, a lot of people aren't paying necessarily paying attention because they don't think it's going to affect them because they don't live in Arizona or Texas or Florida. But once they have moved these people by bus, plane, or train into other states, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't all 50 states now border states?
Yes, they are. MS-13, the most notorious gang in the world, they're in 48 states in this country now. Tren de Aguirre, they're in over 20 and they're growing quickly. Fentanyl is making it into every town, city, and state in this nation. If you don't know someone that's died of a fentanyl overdose, you soon will. It's the number one killer of people between the age of 18 and 45. So every state's a border state. And look, illegal immigration, they're going everywhere. The ones who are releasing, they're going all across the country. They're going to drive wages down. They're going to overtax your school system. They're going to overtax your hospitals and trauma centers. And they're going to overtax your social service systems. And look, no one hires, when they get jobs, people need to understand. I mean when I say this, I really mean this. No one hires an illegal alien out of goodness or heart. They hire them because they can work them harder, pay them less, and undercut their competition who has U.S. citizen employees. What's good for this country is secure border. And if you want a secure border, you only got one choice November 5th, and that's President Trump.
You've got that right. Tom, thanks for coming back and hanging out with me. T, please tell people how they can reach you and anything you'd like to promote.
Well, you can go to my website, Homeland Strategic, HomelandStrategicConsulting.com, and you can find me there. You can also find me on border911.com. However, border911.com, that's a 501c3. That won't be political, but there is a website there where you can get educated, nonpartisan education. And look, you can catch me on Fox News Network, and who knows, in the near future, you may catch me at the White House.
Yeah, and if you're at the White House, I know what's going to happen, because the last time I saw you, I asked you a question I'm not going to ask here, but you brought a big smile to your face. So keep doing what you're doing, because we need warriors. And thank you for coming on. God bless you and your family.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
There you have it, Mr. Tom Homan. I want to thank Tom Homan for coming back and laying it on the line, telling it like it is, putting it out there in vivid terms why we must secure our border, and why the only person capable of doing that in this presidential election is President Donald J. Trump. No other choice. We won't even recognize America, because they're going to give these people citizenship, and we'll never win another election again. And they'll pack the Supreme Court, and then you'll have, believe me, you don't want to know. So let's stop this right here, right now. As I said before, it's showtime. It's go time. We've got to get this job done. So thanks, Tom, for who you are, what you do. Continue to speak truth to power, because we need that voice, and people really, really need to know what's coming across the border, why, and who's behind it. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Or you subscribe to it, leave a rating and a review, and be sure to tell your friends about the show. We have the video version. You can find that at YouTube, Rumble, Conservative Television of America, the God, Family and Country Television Network, and the Rose Unplugged Media Network. Click the notification button, subscribe, leave a rating and a review. Let us know what you think about the show. Well, that's all for now, everyone. I will say, please, you must vote. You must vote. If you don't, and you wake up in America you don't recognize, you weren't part of the solution. You were part of the problem. So, until the next time, this is your host, Gary Benford, saying God bless you, God bless your families, and God, please, bless America.